Welcome to Unstoppable Real Estate Investing Wealth. My name is Billy Alvaro, aka the Unstoppable VA, former billion-dollar mortgage banker gone bankrupt turned professional real estate investor, where each week you'll learn the tools, strategies, systems, and secrets myself and other highly successful real estate investing entrepreneurs use to start, grow, and scale their businesses, creating massive profits, and how you can too. And we'll teach you how to put those profits to work so you no longer have to. Get ready to finally experience financial freedom and generational wealth. Now let's get started.
What's going on, everybody? This is Billy Alvaro back again, Unstoppable REI Wealth. Today I have a friend on. I like to call him a friend because he is just that, a friend. Mr. Matt Saunders from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Matt's been investing for years. And I got to tell you, he's not going to brag about himself because that's not the type of individual he is. Matt, you're on mute, just so you know. That's not the type of individual he is. But Matt, I look at him, about the same age. This gentleman has the lifestyle of lifestyles. He set his business up to where he has cash flowing real estate, a lot of it free and clear. He did it the right way. He was taught the right way. He executed the right way. If you guys are fixing and flipping and wholesaling, I want you to pay special attention to this episode because we're going to get in with Matt on how he built his empire in the Virginia Beach area. Matt, welcome to the show, brother.
Hi there, Billy.
Coming from your beautiful boat out in West Virginia. I love it. I love the background.
Thank you. Yep.
Matt, you and I met CG a while ago. We started getting really friendly about a year and a half, 2 years ago, smoking cigars and hanging out and really brainstorming about business and life and psychology and about the body and just getting to know you. This is no bullshit. Like, you're a down-to-earth, solid human being, good-natured, great values. And on the business side, like, I'm looking at you and saying you could be my mentor on the business side for what you've built in regards to your cash flowing business. You have. How many years, Matt, have you been doing this?
Well, the first house I ever flipped was March of 2004. So actually 19 years, not an overnight success.
19 years. I love it. And did you have the mindset from the beginning, Matt, of coming into this and owning cash flowing businesses, or what did it start off, and were you a fix and flipper wholesale type guy?
I was definitely the first, what you just said. I mean, I got into real estate so that I could get a number of properties. And at that time, my vision was all on 15-year money. And then in 15 years, have enough that I don't have to work. So that's actually what started me in real estate, was just the idea of buying things that make sense financially on 15-year money. And then 15 years later, it's all paid off. But the first rental property I bought was September 2002. And the first flip I bought was March 2004. So call it 2 years. Flipping houses is active income, has nothing to do with wealth.
Correct.
Is what's left over after your active income that you then invest for future growth. And I think that's where people get really confused, and it's normal because you see all the commercials and all this association. I call it all flash, no cash. Like, people are brought up to think like, big cars, big houses, big boats, I'm rich. But none of that is really wealth, because it all is just money going out.
You've set your lifestyle up exactly. I don't know if it's exact, but your vision in 2001, 2, 3, when you started with this, you've basically reached your vision, Matt. I mean, you have a lot. I don't know the number, but you have a lot.
You're gonna laugh. Let me just tell you what the vision was then. Okay, I was running I started my first company in 26. It was basically an advertising sales company, and I'll say fax advertising, but most of the people listening here won't even know what a fax is. But the bottom line is, I was busting in my ass with a dozen employees, typically netting out about 150 to maybe 180. But it was so much work. I'm talking like in the office at 7:30 in the morning, out of the office at 6:30, just cooked. And I was like, man, I got to get out of this rat race. So I basically wanted 10 paid off rentals that would give me $10,000 a month after expenses. And so 2002, 15 years later is 2017. I don't know how many I had then, but we're in 2023 and our paid off rent roll is $95,000.
I want you to repeat that. That's not $95,000 a year. That's $95,000 a month.
Right. And that's how come I could do something that's as financially irresponsible as being this 58-foot boat. Because
let's call it what it is. It's a yacht. I mean, Matt, look, I watch you on Facebook. You got this magnificent lifestyle. You have a plane. You're a pilot. You fly to a lot of the events that we go to. Like, where's Matt? Oh, he's flying in a half hour. And I see a video recording on Facebook. When you started off with your 10 property vision, how did this propel into $95,000 a month? Like give the listeners some insight as to what you did. Because there's a lot of guys out there who think it's impossible, right? They have the vision, they have the drive, they have the desire, but because they don't know how to, they kind of like, I don't know if it's real. I hear about these guys doing it, but how do I actually go about doing this?
Okay. So this is some of the topics I just love talking about. So thank you for asking. Okay. I just love helping people get some type of vision that's meaningful to them. And then you don't have to be a business whiz to put numbers on it. So what I often tell people is like, what to you would mean something worth working for? And to me back then it was, man, if I can just get to $10,000 a month in today's dollars, which is a side note, rent property goes up with inflation. So you're always going to be in today's dollars, even if you're out there in the future, because the rents are higher. But in today's dollars, $10,000 a month, I can at least get by without working. So that to me was worth whatever pain I had to go through in learning, thinking, and taking action. So going back to advice is I'd start with some type of vision that has a timeline in the future that you can buy into as being achievable. So like if someone had told me in 2002, oh no, Matt, don't have that small vision, go for like $80,000 a month, my brain wouldn't have bought it, Billy. So if you can't believe it, you heard it. You can't believe it, you can't achieve it. But what I could believe is like, okay, if I can get like 10 and make them fit these numbers, I could believe that happening. Okay. So that's the first thing is I'd say a meaningful goal. And the second thing is a time horizon that's believable. And then like any goal, okay, break it down to one at a time. And for me back then, I didn't know anything about this type of business. I just read a couple books on rental properties and knew that if I put 10% down and could rent it for about $100 a month, and really it should be more than that, more than the 15-year note, I would beat any 15-year segment in the stock market without even adding appreciation. So then I was just like locked on because I'm like, okay, I'll not use cuss words, but I really want to. Forget.
Listen, I'm a New Yorker, so curse as much as you want.
Like, fuck all these financial salesmen that tell me I don't want rental property. If I could have stopped the March of 2000 drop by CEOs calling me at 2 a.m, I would have stopped it because I lost 200,000. I lost almost 50% of what I had in March of 2000 being in the equities market. Yeah. So anyhow, I'll ramble sometimes and lose my place. Where were we? We were basically saying, believe it. A segment you can believe, like something you can buy. And I could buy the idea of 10 properties, one at a time. I didn't know how going about it was. I set the goal, bought a couple books, ripped through them, and realized if I could put them on 15-year notes with 10% down and they rent more than the note, PITI, I would beat any 15-year segment in the stock market, period. They didn't even need to appreciate, zero appreciation. And so to me,
So
that
there's a
just
lot of people
really, you know, huh?
there's a lot of people, Matt, who would say, man, $100 a month or $200 a month. See, this is the mind frame where fix and flippers, it's the flash versus the long, hard road of building wealth. Talk to the audience about $100, $200, $300 a month where you could have flipped a property, you could have made a quick $20,000, $30,000, or $40,000 in cash. What kind of discipline did it take you to keep yourself in check to make sure you were going towards the guidelines of your plan? So in 15 years, you have the lifestyle that you have now.
Yeah. So super question, Billy, because you're not making 100 or 200, you're making zero. Like you rent it out for more, you are making zero. And when you look at maintenance cost, back then I was new. It really needs to be like 300 a month more because maintenance cost and vacancies and things like that over a big period of time cost more. So the answer to your question is it goes back to the first thing. What's some vision that you can buy into and is meaningful to you? And to me, that vision of 10,000 a month, and that if I'm stressed out and don't want to work anymore, I can at least get by. That was worth sacrificing any now money. Now, that being said, I believe in now money. I'm just not going to take my, let's just call them like animals that are supposed to lay eggs, golden eggs, and slaughter them today for more money. I'm going to go out and hunt a deer or something that isn't laying golden eggs and eat that. So I believe in now making now. I just separate the two. And conceptually too, there's an idea of Matthew Inc. or Billy Inc., which has nothing to do with any of your companies at all. And I bought this idea so long ago. I think Charles Gibbons, boy, now we're really getting old. He was old.
Wow, that's an old name right there, man. That's back in the day, Charles Gibbons.
Yes, I think I bought something of his, and he was like, you pay yourself first, and then you pay everything else. And I bought that idea because I'm like, separate from my company, separate from anything is the Matt Inc. investment portfolio. So Matt can just say, I'm done with everything. I'm going to go, smell the flowers, do whatever. I don't have to work. So circling back to your question, you just have to have a desire and a vision that you can buy into. And really, Billy, at the end of the day, if you're not willing to sacrifice today for tomorrow, tomorrow will be the same as today. Yeah. There's a good saying, and that is people give up what they want most for what they want now. It's immediate gratification versus long term.
And this is the world we live in. Everybody wants things now, and nobody wants to wait. Very few people want to wait. Very few people are disciplined. Very few people have the mindset to be like, you know what? I hate to use the word suffer, but I'm going to suffer for a period of time until I come out the other end. Now, your life would have been completely different, Matt, if you would have just fixed and flipped and wholesaled and lived high in the hog and spent the money that you were bringing in on bullshit, whether it's, second houses that aren't producing income or boats that aren't producing income.
Some hole in the water like this. I could have bought something like this 20 years ago with my active money. Wouldn't have been able to do what I did on the other end.
Correct. Correct.
And then when you get older, and this is what I want to really impress upon younger people, you get really fucking tired, okay? I want you to hear that if you're out there and you're 30. You will be really fucking tired at some point in your life.
Yeah.
That's when most people think about retirement. Okay? It's very difficult to accomplish at that point.
Matt, when you were doing this, obviously you didn't have a regular job. You went into this field full time. So did you have any type of process or formula where you're like, you know what, I'm going to flip one, I'm going to hold two, because you need that active income, right? You're not going to survive on a couple $100s a month as you're buying these properties. So how did you, as you were building your wealth, talk to the audience on how you actually also had active income that you were able to live off of, pay your bills, so you can keep the thing flowing and keep your vision of 15 years out in the future actually happening?
It's just like you said, Billy. These numbers changed over time, but when I got started, I wanted to do like buy 3, keep 1, like buy 4, keep 25% of them. And the market, shoot. Okay, there you are. I'm waiting cause unstable internet.
You're good.
Billy, are you back on? All right.
Yep, you're good. So I heard you say that you were holding on to 25%. Is that what I heard you say?
That was the goal. But the reality was that, say, by 2005, real estate prices had gone so high that it did not make financial sense to rent. Because if I'm buying something that I'm paying $150 for and I can get $250 for it and I can get $1,200 in rent, the numbers just don't make sense.
Right.
So it was only when certain things would come across my plate in the boom back then that I would keep. And so it was probably closer to like 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 or 1 in 7. But after like 2010 or 11, it definitely went more like 1 in 4, because you could pick up deals where the rental value made black and white good sense.
Matt, when you started doing this, and I don't want to talk about now because I know you have a different model now with what you're doing, but in the early stages, and I guess from beginning to like 5-8 years in, were you marketing for deals? Were you cherry picking deals off the MLS? What was your process to bring the deals in?
It was always marketing, with the exception of, so like back then, pay-per-click and direct mail. We did some signs, but signs got to be very stressful because you're hiding from the zoning enforcement. I just decided I didn't want to do it that way. So yes, internet pay-per-click back then, and then it became where you couldn't even make money because out of 1,000 leads, 1,000 owed more than the property was worth because they had refinanced 10 times in the last month.
Right. 9, 10, yeah, around there, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, and that's when I started looking to. After the crash, there was like a year where I did very little business. I tried a lot of short sales and stuff. I made like 75,000 that year. That's how working my ass off too. But then after the market crashed, I went all on MLS in the HUD home store, and that worked really good for about 2 years, maybe longer, but 2 years for sure. And then everyone knew about it. And once everybody knows about something, there's too much competition. Prices get up too high. You know how the deal goes. So that got me direct marketing. So yeah, we with the exception of 2 or 3 years, have always been direct marketers.
Yeah. So this is important for the audience to hear. I want to underscore it because every great business is built from marketing, from great marketing. If you want to scale, if you want to have any type of real business, you have to have a process to drive in leads. And that process is generally either direct marketing or referral marketing, or depending on where the market's going, to your point, if the market changes, we have another crash, and then there's an abundance of deals that are on the MLS that you can cherry pick off. By all means, you're going to shift your marketing process to now driving these leads that are going to cost you very low. And then to Matt's point again, once everybody jumps on the bandwagon and the margins start to get compressed and it's really competitive, you need to switch gears. So the thing is with entrepreneurs like us, in order to make money and to grow, you need to be versatile. You need to shift gears quickly depending on market conditions. And Matt, you've been doing that for the last 20 plus years. Talk to the audience on, as you were growing your wealth, whether it's on the wealth side with the buy and hold or the fix and flip, how did you go about the financing? What did that look like in the early days, and what does that look like now?
Okay, well, in the early days, I went to a local bank, and I mean, I'm going to give you my story, but I don't want anyone to be discouraged and say, "Oh, that doesn't work for me." I started out at 24, like determined to have enough money that I didn't have to work. But at that time, I believed in equities, and I don't not believe in equities, by the way. It's just not the best path, and definitely not the best path for me. So anyhow, bottom line is when I turned around and went to banks, I already had 300, 400,000 in different investments, and that had dropped a ton because March of 2000. But I mean, it's still 300 or 400 drop. So I went there, and also a decade of showing P&Ls from my fax advertising company. So I guess what I'm saying is, if a bank was going to take a risk on somebody, it would be me. But I called about 10 banks, which is a total waste of time unless you're going to a local community bank and have a decision maker, which is what I ended up with. And so that's how I financed them. Local community banks. Some of them were better than other ones, but at the end of the day, that's how I did it. However, nowadays, as you know, Billy, there are tons of lenders out there that lend in this space, and they were not in the early 2000s.
Yeah, the market's changed big time. You have a lot of these DSR lenders out there.
Yeah, I mean, Cavalli or whatever. I don't know what the lenders are because I have such cheap money, or as cheap as money gets nowadays, that it doesn't make sense to talk to those guys. But nowadays, I mean, you can get a hard money loan that isn't even hard money.
No, it's cheap money. People look at it like, how could you pay, 9 or 10% if you're fixing and flipping, or 8% if it's a rental property. It's nothing.
That is so.
Yeah, if the property cash flows, if the property is going to make you money,
and that's an important point. Is like, you can't get lost in the small picture. You got to look at the big picture. Yeah,
I agree. Have you ever, Matt? Have you ever done any type of creative?
And when you look at the big picture over 15 years or 20 years, appreciate. I mean, even in 08, we're past 08 values, the 08 crash. Okay, so we're in 2023, 15 years out, and the values are higher than that crash. So even if you had bought at the peak in 08, you are now better off 15 years later.
It's crazy. Real estate is the number one way to build wealth, without a doubt. No doubt about it. Owning your own business and investing in real estate, I should say, those two is the pathway to wealth.
I agree.
Have you ever done any type of creative financing subject to lease options, anything like that? Or it's always been regular, simple deals?
Everything you said. So, I mean, obviously, if you're buying a foreclosing property, someone that's going to in the future be in foreclosure, be it a week from now or 10 weeks, very easy to get subject to deals because their credit is already not good, and you're going to make payments on time, and that's going to help. And anyhow, so subject to deals, we still do them, even if, I mean, we've got credit lines that are like as easy as writing a check out of your checkbook, but I'd still rather do a subject to deal because it's not on my credit line. So I love subject to owner finance. If anything, that's something we haven't done well, but need to, meaning when you're talking to a landlord and someone that has a paid off property, working a deal that's owner financed versus just making it about money. Because when it's just a price, it's, hey, I need it at 80, he wants 120. Well, we're 40K apart. But if you're like, hey, if I give you 120, can I pay you over the next 120 months? And you get your price. And if like, yeah, well, that's awesome. I think I've only done one deal that was like that. And I do remember a good tip. It was reference monthly amount and then say what you'll pay for interest. So in other words, hey, Billy, I'll give you $1,000 a month for the next 10 years for this property. Okay. So whatever the math is on that, what is that? 120 grand. And for interest on that $1,000, I'll put $100 on every payment. So you get 1,100. And you're like, hey, that's 10%, right? It's 1%.
Yeah.
Because you're referencing your the actual monthly payment, principal, 100% principal, and then putting $100. So it sounds like 10%. But on a $120,000 loan, you've only paid $1,200 for the year in interest.
Yeah,
So
that's insane.
And most
That's
people,
insane.
sounds good. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, I did one of the deals recently. I did a 0% interest rate loan on a deal that we bought down at the shore. I turned it into an Airbnb, and it was magnificent. The lady I gave her the price she was looking for, and in exchange, she gave me seller financing, and we did it at 0%. When it went to her attorney did the old, according to the federal guidelines with IRS, you have to impute a certain percentage of interest rate. So we ended up decreasing the loan amount that I was borrowing from her, imputed the interest rate, which I think was like 175 or something to that effect. So it turned out to be the same amount I bought the property for, except we busted out a portion of it for interest, the rest for principal. She got the money she wanted, which was $1,000 a month. I got the deal. We're renting it out, and it's making us a nice little nut each month on the Airbnb. Yeah, creative stuff is fun, man. I love doing.
How many years was that loan?
That loan is I think it's like an 11-year loan, 12 years, 3 months. It's like a weird number.
Well, that's okay. It's a decade or longer. I just love it because if you're just paying principal, which is what you're paying, over 11 years, like I'd have to get a calculator to give you the present value of what you actually just bought. But it is far greater than what it appears on the.
100% for sure. Matt, what is your business today? So you got your son involved, right? Tell me what your business looks like today in 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have my main acquisition guy, Garrett, who is essentially a partner. He's a profit partner. Yeah, so basically, I essentially have like a partner, and he's in charge of acquisitions. And then my son works in acquisitions, and we now have him focused on a section of acquisitions that Garrett, the other acquisitions guy, never touched. So it's just new money. So that's what acquisitions looks like. Staff-wise, we have 2 full-time transactional coordinating people, property managers, this type of thing. And then we have 2 part-time bookkeepers, 1 construction manager, and my wife lists all our properties. So
you're running a tight business, running a super tight, efficient business.
Super, like literally, revenue-wise, over 50% of the revenue is profit.
Fantastic.
And if you take salaries, and when I say profit, because Garrett gets a percent of the profits, I include him in with that statement. Yeah. So my business philosophy, what I love about entrepreneurship, whatever the right size is for you is the right size. So like you could be a solo flipper and have rental property. Eventually you need a property manager and do great as long as that's what you want to do. You'll need an assistant. But I mean, there's guys that have an assistant, a property manager, and probably knock down 800,000-900,000 a year and no employee headaches. Now they're working a lot, but oh well. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, I'm not saying totally, but at the end of the day, hey, let's be real. Idle time is not good for people that are driven. People like in Collective Genius that have 100 employees, and I just want to puke at that idea.
Yeah.
My squeeze for the juice. That's what I call it. What's just enough chaos for the money, and then beyond that, I just don't want more chaos for more money.
It does definitely. It's chaos. It's a large dynamic. It actually erodes your margins, right? I mean, when I was a lot smaller in this business, my margins were exceptionally high, and as we've grown, still very profitable. But on the margin side, the margins are a lot less, man. You know, you're not talking 50% margin. You're talking 30, 32% margin. And it's, you know, sometimes it drops down below 30. And it's like, if you want to scale, so you really, it's a balance, right? Like I'm going through the last year and a half, we've been scaling heavily. And in the business where I'm at geographically, our cash conversion cycle is just so damn long, Matt, that the money we invested last year, we're not seeing for another 4 or 5 months. That's how crazy it is here.
Wow.
It's a long cash conversion cycle.
Because permits take forever. Why is it so long?
Yeah. So because we're in an attorney state, getting them in the contract takes a long ass time. That's number one. If we're going to renovate, we turned over to doing a lot of renovations this past year and a half. So on the renovation side, the permitting process is extremely long. Then on the back end, just the way the market flew, it was really in our favor. Values are going up, but because rates went up so high, a lot of the people on the buy side, when we were buying, we got them to accept terms, but then they couldn't move because they had nowhere to find and move into. They couldn't find a rental. They couldn't find another property to move into. So like everything, instead of us compressing this year, the cash conversion, our cash conversion cycle actually has morphed. It's gotten really long. And it really put a hammer in our process because we're like, holy shit, we actually need to start flipping. We had this plan to do a ton more renovations, but we had to turn it over. We had to be dynamic. We had to see what was going on in our own market. And we actually started turning back over to wholesale to get the cash back in quickly because the cash on the wholesale side happens a lot. The velocity happens faster than on the fix and flip side. But the reason I'm bringing this up is I want people to heed caution when you're trying to scale in this business. There's so many different variables that you need to look at. And it's such a dynamic business that you really have to have your eye and your finger on the pulse on everything, on all your key performance indicators. And I'm not talking just marketing. With your cash conversion cycle, most important, if you're going to go from wholesale to fix and flip or add the novations in, you really need to understand your cash conversion cycle.
And I guess all I was chiming in on is, hey, that's business. We make our plans, but then we adjust to the reality of what's happening.
100%. You know, it goes back also to the people on your team. If I didn't have a really strong CFO who was bringing this stuff to our attention and being like, look, here's what we had plan wise, and you're hitting your milestones for new deals coming in, but your cash conversion is starting to spread out. We need to modify what we're doing internally in the business because it's not sustainable to keep on doing all these rehabs simply because of the cash conversion cycle. So we quickly saw it. We made a pivot. We got everything working again. But the plan to scale needs to happen slow and steady, in my view. And it's not all what it's cracked up to be to grow to 100 employees. When I had my mortgage company, 900 employees. Not something I ever want to go back. Yeah, throw up. Exactly. It's just a lot of employees, a lot of headaches, a lot of BS. And at the end of the day, it's about lifestyle and it's about what you can do it yourself when you're here as you're growing the business. I don't need the stress and the aggravation. I'm happy.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
No, it's 3 years ago, I wanted to scale. I saw me scaling this business to a huge level. And as I started going, I'm like, you know what? I don't want the same problems. I want to have a really healthy company and I want to scale in the certain markets, but I don't want the massive overhead, the 50 employees. I just don't want to do it.
Well, in Billy, one of the quotes you've heard a million times, and I used to always throw up on my presentation in CG is comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And when we're at CG, at least this is my opinion, it's like everyone's like scale, 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 bigger, 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 bigger. And for some people, that is the right choice. But just because other people are doing it and then you feel compelled to do it, not you, I mean, whoever.
Yep. Yep.
You know, you get a person really is going to be best when they figure out what it is they want without regard to the guy over there saying he's got a bigger one than you.
Right.
I mean, let's be real.
Great. Matt, listen, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation today. You gave some really good value. The guys and girls who are listening that are doing the fix and flip and the wholesaling, listen, if you want to build wealth, you have to mix in. First, do what Matt said. Create a plan. Get disciplined on that plan. Doesn't mean you have to forego any type of active income today. You're going to need that active income to keep yourself going. But if you're not planning for the future, you're never going to end up with $100,000 a month in passive income just by it happening. You have to plan for that to happen.
And Billy, on that note too, what I would encourage someone to do that's like, oh, there's no way I can save 20% of my income. I would say, okay, what are you making right now? And let's just pretend they said 100 grand. And I said, okay, now everything over 100 grand, save 65 or 75% of. That way you still enjoy making more money because you have more to spend, but a huge amount of that additional is going to what I call you Inc.
Yep.
You know, just your private parachute fund, golden parachute fund.
Yep.
Because it's very hard to go, hey, I'm spending 150 grand. I'm going to save 50. That's painful.
Yep.
But to say I'm spending 150, I'm going to make 200 by doing these things, and 75% of that I'll invest. Or if you're really weak, half of that, whatever. Yep. I'm just saying, like, if you take it off of growth income, it's much easier.
You know, it's the concept you're saying is very similar to Profit First, that book that came out.
Yes.
It's extremely similar to that that book. And so paying yourself first and then paying out everything else is the way to do it. It's really the only way to do it.
And that's how you have your own golden parachute. And just like the compound effect, you start doing that, and the first year or two, you're like, yeah, it's not so much. And next thing you know, 3 or 4 years later, you're beginning to get excited about seeing your wealth grow.
Yep.
And then you wake up 20 years from now, and you're like,
holy shit,
I'm so glad I did that.
Yeah. It's a grind, brother, but it's a long-term game. It's a long game. It's not a short game. Everybody out there.
Amen.
This was a great interview, man. I'm glad that you had the time on your beautiful boat to join me today. I'm sorry I'm not going to see you in 2 weeks, but we definitely have to stay in touch. I want to get together with you, maybe come down to Virginia Beach.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll go down, maybe my girl. We'll have some dinner with you guys, and it'll be nice.
And we'll go out yachting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. Good seeing you, pal.
All right, guys. See you.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.